We're going to start our drawing by reserving space for the poem. This is a poem by Wm Wadsworth, written in 1802, and from a scene that he witnessed when he was on a walk about daffodils. So run off your paper with the poem on it. I've included that here. And then find a place where you want to put it on the paper. I've left it up a little ways and not too close to the edge. And then sketch lightly around it so you'll know where it's going to be placed, so we can keep our painting separate from it. And this, I have cut mine with a decorative edge. That's why it's a little wavy, but I like that look better. And you can, at the end, we'll talk about whether you want to put any color on that or not. But move it away for now because water and ink jets don't get along. So now that we have our rectangle, we're going to put in the horizon line, which will be approximately halfway up is where I put it. So just sketch a little line. I'm sketching very lightly because we would want to erase after this is inked in. And now I'm going to put in where the lake would be, because these daffodils were on a lake in his little poem. So just kind of put in rough edges of a lake and let it wander off behind the poem. Now, where should we put that daffodil? Let's put it, I wanted mine so it was kind of looking down towards the poem. And I'm just going to do just a rough circle for placement. Which is going to be erased later. And then the first thing we'll start with on the daffodil is the trumpet. So it's a curved line, and then it has the sides flare out, and you can do this as much or as little as you want. If you look at daffodil pictures, you're going to see they come in a lot of different ways, colors, very, very roughly or not. And so the opening is a ruffle at the top. And then I did one more little ruffle above that line. I know this is hard to see, so we're going to zoom in a little bit. Ignore this picture. And then we'll see a little closer. So once we have the trumpet in place, we need to add 6 petals. And they also can be rounded or pointy, or I just did mine pointy. And then, so pick a length. Now this is adjustable because we have an eraser. There's 2 and 1. This one will be hanging out a little below the trumpet. They don't overlap, they just touch, not like some other flowers where they overlap a bit, like in pansies. So now we have 4. And another one that's going to hang down. Now look at your petals and see if they're basically the same length. If they aren't, you can enlarge or reduce ones to suit yourself. I'm going to bring our stem down. Most of it's going to be covered up, but it gives us placement and where it's growing from the ground. Now, if you get your daffodil and your lake too close together, you can reduce the size of the lake. That's the easiest thing to do. But we need to leave room on the bank for the picture of the suggestion of the daffodils that are blooming there. So the first leaf is going to come up and flare to the right a little bit and then have a hook on the top, little S hook, because this is going to be a leaf that's turned over. It's a turned leaf. And then add a little S stroke below it because you didn't go all the way to the top with the second line. So make another little S stroke, and now it looks like it's turned over. And we're just going to add some more blades of leaves. And these can be adjusted for height, and they can be overlapping. It's kind of confusing down at the bottom with the stem and the different edges of the leaves, so there we go. Then we're going to put another long leaf. We like these leaves different heights, so we're going to put a tall one next to the daffodil. And these look like the leaves are all running together, but once they're outlined with the ink pen, you'll find that it's fine. And then I just did a short one on the side, and we're kind of looking at that sideways actually. Now, I wanted to enlarge that one a little bit so the heights were just a little more different. They kind of create a kind of a more of an arrow or a direction down to the lake as well. So once you get that done to suit yourself, then you can, erase any things that you need to erase. I'm sorry this is getting refocusing so much. I'm erasing the circle that I drew, but you can you need to remove it if you have put it in. You can start the daffodil just with the trumpet and go from there, but sometimes it helps to get an idea where you're going to put it. And at the bottom we're going to have some little purple flowers, so we're going to leave some room for that right down here below the daffodil. At this point, we're ready to paint. So take your sponge, wet it in water, wring it out completely so it's just damp. And this can be any kind of sponge. It can be your kitchen sponge. Don't press too hard so that you smear the graphite. And if you've sketched darker, that would be easy to do. You can do this with a brush, but the sponge gives a little more even coat and not too much water. Sometimes when we put water on a sky with a big brush, it's too wet and takes too long to dry and gets a little wrinkly. So now we're going to take a large brush and dip into some phthalo blue, which is kind of a little bit on the turquoisey side. That's way too much. So I'm going to rinse the brush completely and clean water, and just pull a little bit from the edge. And then we're going to take our scrap of paper and we're going to test it. I decided that looked a little too strong, so rinse the brush again and added some water to the blue that I had there. And we'll check it again. Yep, that'll work. Now put it on hold the brush low to the surface, stay off of the daffodil, because if we put too much, if we put blue over the daffodil, when we add the yellow, it'll become a green color. If you did get any on, as you just saw, all you have to do is take a clean brush and scrub it out while this is wet. It will come off. And kind of go horizontally with your brush, back and forth. And if you get some streaks or different intensities of color, that's good. Just skies are very much like that. And you can also take, if you get too much, you can take your sponge and lift it and make it look even more like faint clouds in the sky. So that's an option if you get it too dark or darker than you'd like. However, you will find that once this dries, that color is really going to be reduced in intensity. So you could always do it again. You could even after you were all finished painting, you could go back. And I'm going down the right side of the little poem. Decided to add just a little more color, and you can see that the splotchiness kind of makes the sky look a little more interesting. You don't have to worry about going over the leaves because when we paint them green, the blue won't be a problem at all. Scrub a little bit more off of that one. If you got too much on and couldn't get it off, you could put some white on there to cover up the blue. In watercolor, they have a product called Misket, where you want to keep something white. It's kind of like a rubber cement, but dries, where you can rub it off, and that's how you can keep things white. Now we're going to go to our medium green, which in this case is pine green, but it's just a medium green. We can darken it, and we can make it cooler by adding that blue to it, or we can also make it warmer by adding yellow, which we're going to use later. And that was too much green, so same as with the blue, I cleaned my brush, because you got that paint in your brush because you picked it up with the brush. So you have concentrated paint. And then you check it on your little scrap of paper, and you proceed to just filling in those leaves. If they get different colors, if some are lighter and some darker, that's okay. Or if you have streaks in the leaves, that's okay too. So I added a little water to my palette so that I could, pick it up easily if I needed to get more water on my brush. I'm using a filbert, which you can use the edge of if you need to get in a thin line. And the stem. Now those are pretty much all one color. So we're going to be adding more color to those to shade. Might even warm them up a bit with some yellow. Okay, this is purple, Diox purple. Very, very strong color. I'm going to add some blue and some green and some purple together to make a lake color. Because lakes don't appear blue, just like the ocean doesn't appear blue. Now you definitely need to check this on your paper, see if you like it. I think I decided that was a little too green. There, just a tiny bit of blue added to that. Then again, holding the brush low to the surface and just scrubbing in a horizontal manner, we're going to fill in the lake. Now we're going to come back to this lake, so this is not a finished lake. You can kind of run your brush horizontally to leave streaks, because in the poem he talks about the waves on the lake, and so some not a smooth, we don't want a placid smooth, we want to try to get some streaks in there, and as I said, we'll come back to it. So that was green, touch of blue, and a touch of purple. You can see the blue in it. Back to the green. We can use a lot of green. Tiny bit of purple into the green. No blue this time. We want something for the landscape, the ground line, that's not the same as the stems, the blades and leaves of our daffodil, and not the same as the lake. So that's why I added a tiny touch of purple to it. Now purple has red in it, and well, this may be a pure color, but purple by nature is made of blue and red, so that tone's green. So it's just a little bit toned, not very much. Come right on down and under the poem and just feather off the color, holding the brush low to the surface and horizontal again. Now you can leave a space where you're going to put the crocus or the little purple flowers under the daffodil, and sometimes I do that, and sometimes this time I didn't. More green. Now this time I've added some blue to the green, and we're going to put some shading on the leaves of the daffodil. We're going to go up under that turned leaf and kind of feather out your color. We'll go behind the turned leaf because it's in front, so it needs to be a little darker behind. And then just put some streaks to shade in the others. I kept this pretty light. I did come back later with some other colors, so this is a work in progress here. Later we'll put some blue on it and even a touch of purple. Okay. Again, keep in mind that now this is watercolor paper here, not expensive, just 90-pound Strathmore watercolor paper. But the paint does sink into the paper. It's not like it sits on top. So it fades. And I put a little shading on the end of this, the back of the daffodil and on the stem. Not in the middle, just on the top and the bottom. Okay, next we're going to the daffodil. Now you can go with this straight, bright yellow, or you can add a little bit of the yellow-orange to it if you wish to warm it up. That's the yellow-orange there, but it's predominantly yellow. And we can go with a little bit more opaque application of paint. You do need water to make it move, but we're not looking for transparent color here because we don't need to in this case. You can see where the yellow-orange really warmed that up. And I didn't even put much in there either. And you can always leave little holes in holidays. They look more painterly than a solid filled-in surface. I'm explaining here how we're going to shade the daffodil. And there's two ways you can shade. You can take the purple, which is opposite the yellow on the color wheel, and it makes a brown, almost like a raw sienna, as you can see here. Now it depends on the yellow you use and the purple, you know, if depending on the brand or even the hue. And then the other way you can do it is you can wait till that daffodil is completely dry, because right now it is still wet, so it's going to blend in nicely. But when it's completely dry, we can come back and just with very, very, very thin purple, we can repeat this process, and because it's on top of the yellow and very, very thin, and you get the same effect almost exactly. So we're going to go around the base of the leaves, and it's darkest in the middle of that throat. So we'll probably come back to this later, but now on the I'm not sure what I'm explaining here because this is the third time I put the audio on it. I think this is where I'm going to put the horizon line on. Maybe not. I think we're adding more color to the blades of the leaves, which is a blue-green color. And if you wanted to tone that more, you could add a touch of purple to it. That's pretty bright. So you can maybe add a little more green to it. But you would be putting more green to it if you thin it down, because underneath it is green. So see, these are starting to look better already. And don't worry about it if the blue shows like that. It looks nice to have a variety of hues. you know, compatible ones, of course. Well, maybe not, who knows. Those plain ones were really bugging me, so I had to go back to it now. Now I've taken a little dabby brush. It's just a little, this is a possibilities brush, and then I'm going to grab my favorite, which is a very well used oval glaze in an 1/8 inch, and it's just perfect for this work. Okay, we're going to thin down the purple. It doesn't have to be super thin down because we don't need it too transparent, because we're going over the green grass at the bottom. We're going to put these, just dab them randomly in the bottom of the daffodil, and then we're going to these are simulated crocus, so they're very purple and they're going to have an orange center. Now I'm leaving a little space in there because I'm going to put some blades of green to bring them through into the flower category instead of just little purple blobs. I'm putting some purple on the leaves. And that's a way of marrying your painting, is by bringing colors onto more than one object. It doesn't have to be as intense, but just a little bit kind of sparks a little bit. Now we're going to do the horizon line. Now these can be darker or it could be lighter. In this case, I've added the yellow to the green. That's a little bit too bright, so I'm going to check it. Added water. The color was okay, but the water, it was too dry. You can see how it scratched when I tried it on the paper. And then we're just going to dab a horizon line here. And these are trees. Make sure you leave holes for the trees, because the light comes through trees, and they're never just you know, they can be, but they're usually some light coming through them. Make them different heights, and that's it. That's all you have to do for the horizon. And if you want to play with the green a little bit more, you can on the leaves. I couldn't stand it, so I even put some yellow on the leaves. Doesn't show up too much, so it's just a little hint of color, which makes your painting a little more pleasing to the eye. I decided that was too strong, so I took my clean brush and feathered it out a little bit. Okay. Looks like this is a pause. A little bit closer view. So we're going to try increasing the shade value on the daffodil by making a very watery purple. Always add more water. See how thin that is? Yeah, it's just about right. You can always go darker. And then we're going to repeat the areas that we did it before. The base of the trumpet. Yellow can be a tricky color to shade sometimes. So you don't want to overdo it because it'd look unnatural. Right there, you could put some yellow with white in it to highlight the center of the trumpet if you want. Now, and shading that little turned ruffle. And we're going to outline all of this because I know it kind of looks like it's running together right now, but the outlining really makes a difference. That's a little of that blue-green. To add some more streaks to the lake. Don't make it too blue though. I decided that was too blue, so I'm kind of scrubbing that down a little bit. So right now I'm grabbing some orange, and the orange is for the little center of the crocus. They have a pretty orangey stamen. So it's just a dot, just dab it in there. And then we're also going to put it on in the stamen where the daffodil is. And hopefully that won't be off camera. So I'm going back to some green again. We're going to add, it's kind of a blue-green that we'd mixed, add some of the blades of leaves that come from a crocus. And right there I had dropped a glob of orange right there. It came off my brush and globbed on. So I'm trying to pick it up with a clean brush, which you can only do pretty much when it's wet. Make those little different angles when you do these leaves, little slashes. And put a little ground line there, dab it on horizontally. Now I'm coming, we are going to go back and put in our, I've decided I better try to clean that up again because it was just so ugly. So I put some water on it and then blot it. That helped a lot. Maybe come back and clean it up a little bit more again with a clean brush. Then we probably need to put some green strokes in there to cover that up. getting close to finished. I'm dabbing a little bit of orange in the throat of the trumpet right there, just for the stamens. You could also use a green. Since we had the orange handy. Now we're going to put the horizon line on with a little darker color so that the trees separate from the grass. And this is a little bit of a dull color too, the green and a little purple. And this is still a small brush, just put it in roughly there, horizontally. Clean up your brush on your leaves if you need to. Add more green there if you need to. At the crocus. Okay, now we're going to do the bank that has the daffodils on. And you can, instead of starting with the brightest color, I'm going to make it a little darker by adding the yellow-orange to it. Now this paint does not have to be transparent. You want to, I guess I got into the orange, or the yellow-orange for that too. I don't got sidetracked. That's optional. So you want some paint on your brush, and then we're going to, this is the little dabby brush. You could do it with small round. Small round would work good too. And we're going to just randomly dot that on. We're going to do it 2 more times. Just kind of scatter them. Just scatter those little daffodils that are far, far away from our eye. We will add greenery. We'll dab also some greenery in there. This time we're going to take a glob of white. I just picked up a glob because I didn't want to get my white contaminated. And I was letting the bank dry a little bit, and then the white is to kind of simulate waves that might be reaching up to the sun. Of course they wouldn't be white, but it kind of gives you the impression. It doesn't show up very much, but come back again. So we've got some movement on that lake. Okay, now we're going to do another application of the faraway daffodils with full paint of the bright yellow, and I'm adding some white to it because it will show up better. And again, we're just going to repeat right on top of what we did, just random, so that some of the darker color shows and some of the lighter color. And it's not showing up too much, but we might have to do it again. But if you like the way it's turning out, you know, that's okay. I mean, I'm adding some more light yellow, bright yellow to this. we've got this wave of daffodils on the bank of the lake. Back to the green. And dab in, this is just straight green, we're dabbing in the semblance of the leaves. So we're 3 applications here. Try not to make them too even. It's looking kind of even. And then you can come back again with more yellow and give it another pop of yellow. No water this time at all. There we go. So now we can really see that yellow on the bank. Okay, now assuming that our painting is dry, or you can start with the driest part, I'm going to use this carbon ink pen, platinum ink pen. I have a link to it under supplies on my website, but it's really a nice ink. It's got a very nice sharp point because it's a fountain pen, and you can refill it or add cartridges to it. And we're just going to outline. Now we're going to outline with a broken line. We don't, and it looks really strange up here on the yellow because it's such a stark difference. But once we get everything outlined, it doesn't look that way. But you want to break your line because it gives the appearance a little bit, or the suggestion that there might be some sunlight hitting it. And the eye doesn't want to see a solid, hard line. Now, it doesn't have to be polka dotty. That was kind of polka dotty. That's what we're saying here. So you don't want it polka dotty because that will draw the eye as well. So we just want to enhance our painting. We don't want to distract from it. And you don't have to stay in the lines. You can go outside of them or inside of them. It's okay. So we're just going to continue to outline the entire design. So if you don't have one of these pens, you would use your Sharpie or Pigma. Anything that won't bleed. That's the whole key right there. We don't want any bleeding onto any wet paint. That would be a tragedy. These leaves, see, they're looking more realistic now because they have something to, when you're working in watercolor and they're soft, quiet colors and they're on a white paper, they tend to lose their edges. And so you either have to paint heavier or shade more, or you can outline. We're not going to outline the trees on the back horizon. Looks like I didn't slide the picture up. So I'm just kind of outlining very roughly the crocus, and some don't even have to be outlined at all. So just very rough. And then the horizon line and the edge of the bank. And that's optional too. You might not want to. Take a good look at it and decide, do I need to outline this, or do I want to just leave it faded? That would be a good option. And then I put some more little bitsy lines in the water. And those are optional too. You can just bring in more color if you want. Just don't overdo that. So when you put your poem on, you can outline it a little bit with very light blue, which that looks fine. And on this one, I ran the blue off the edge, and it looks a little different. Instead of on the paper, it's just on the edge, and it picked up that, well, no, it does have an outline of the blue, and I didn't like that too much. So then I went very softly next to the outline with the phthalo blue, and it kind of picks up that rough edge of the paper, should you happen to have some. They have scissors you can buy for that. This is a rough one, kind of like torn watercolor paper. So that's where you would glue this down with a glue stick. Now you could do that, you could print it on the same color paper, that would be nice, but the paper's heavy, so sometimes that's a problem. I could have brought the blue down a little more on the right side. I'm getting very, 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 very thin blue, checked it on my paper. And you've got to stay off of the printing. So if you want to do that, it's just not a very precise, just a kind of a quiet. In fact, it's better if it isn't too precise, you know. Otherwise, you know, if you have it all very precise in one area that's not, it looks like a mistake instead of like it's on purpose that you've done it irregularly like this. Just kind of dabbing and pulling here, actually, and around the bottom, and that kind of adds it to the page in a more effective way. It's not finished until you date it and sign it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed doing this, and let me know what you do with it. I'd like to know. Thank you, and enjoy the poem as well. And you can go ahead and erase your lines. The pencil lines that you can. Some of them you won't be able to erase, but it's okay. And here I'm explaining that if you got your bank too close to the leaves, then draw it a little smaller. I mentioned that earlier. Thank you for watching.